looks like you're kind of pushing the narrative here that MiLaysia Fulwiley might be a little bit underrated. Is that what we're going for?
It's tough because, like I said, being ranked as a top 20 player in the country is, that makes you elite. I don't know if I'm saying that she has to be top 15 or she has to be top 10. Therefore, I don't know if it's just an underrated thing as much as, like I said in there, I don't know if we're getting, and I don't want to make this sound like an indictment on Dawn, but I just don't know if we're seeing the true full unleashed version of MiLaysia Fulwiley. And as I said, it's also not an indictment or a knock on Pow Pow or on Tessa or on Raven. I just think that MiLaysia is easily and by far the most talented guard in that group. And I think she's going to continue to, like she did at the end of the first half of this last game against NC State, she will go on runs that only she can go on, and she will continue to bail them out. And I don't think it's going to become like a thing. I'm not trying to make it a thing. I just feel like it should be more acknowledged that MiLaysia Fulwiley is the best guard on that team. I'm just waiting for that to become more known. I love Pow Pow. I got a long text from the dad of a very popular All-American in regards to this topic. He was responding to that video that I posted and gave me a whole manifesto on why it's Pow Pow and not MiLaysia. And I totally got where he was coming from. Didn't sway me on my feelings at all. I don't know if she's underrated. I just don't think we're truly grasping yet just how good she is.
That's an interesting thing to wrestle with. I agree with you. I don't know if underrated is the right word. What I will say, and this kind of stems from a conversation I was having over the weekend with someone that goes to my church. She's one of my mentors. We were kind of talking about her frustration that she was having with Raven Johnson specifically, because like she's just not hitting shots at the rate that she should be, or the rate that she has, she did last season. And she said, we need Raven Johnson to hit shots. And I just kind of like, but do we really need Raven Johnson to hit shots? Because I feel like that's what MiLaysia Fulwiley is for this team right now. Like, because you mentioned those runs that we've seen her go on that like only she can go on. That is like, MiLaysia is that player for us. Like when we need a shot in the arm, like, yeah, we'll look to Pow Pow. We look to Raven more so because they're older. They're the elder statesmen of the team. They've been in, moments when you expect them to hit shots, but MiLaysia just has energy that no one else on the team can replicate, that cause her to be able to put the team in positions when she's going on these 8-0 run, 10-0 run, 12-0 runs by herself, where there's a lot more energy in the on the floor, if that makes sense. And so you and I had a conversation on the show during the tournament about who the best player on this team was. And I think at that time you were kind of pushing for it to be acknowledged that MiLaysia was the best player on the team. And I was still really set in my ways of like, it's still Camilla, because Camilla's Camilla's the senior, Camilla's the go-to, Camilla's the one that needs all the touches, but Camilla's gone now. And when I look at these guards specifically, and I lamented about these guards 2 weeks ago when we kind of peaked into the season, I will admit that MiLaysia Fulwiley is probably the best guard on this team. And if she's not the best guard, if the word best is too touchy-feely for people, she's certainly the most dynamic guard on this team. And I think in this type of system, as a Dawn Staley player, being the most dynamic typically means you're the best. Like, there's not many players that have come through South Carolina under Dawn Staley's tutelage that weren't the best and also the most dynamic on the team, if that makes sense. I feel like in the Dawn Staley context, those two things are hand in hand. So I agree with you. I don't know if she's underrated, but I definitely think she's the best guard. I definitely think that she needs to be unleashed a little bit more because she's a sophomore, because she deserves it, and because she's shown us on numerous occasions in big moments that she has what it takes to lead this team and like be the difference between a win and a loss for South Carolina for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, the timing of that video was interesting because Pow Pow probably had the better game against NC State. I mean, she finished
Sure.
23, and I mean,
Yeah.
Pow looks great this year. She's doing a
Mhm.
little bit more off the dribble, getting to the basket a little bit more. But like I said in the video, and this kind of turns into a talent conversation. Like I thought you were going to say what I was thinking, which is she's the most talented guard.
Yeah.
Like that, I don't think even Dawn would dispute or argue with. But the word best,
Mhm.
and most dynamic works too. She's easily that, but I think that equates to the same thing. She's the most
Sure.
talented. She's the
Mhm.
most dynamic. But like Pow was the best guard in spurts in that NC State game the other day. And that's what makes their guard unit so impressive. Is that they each can kind of be the best guard for a few possessions or in certain moments. Like Pow was, throughout the game, kind of looking like their best guard. I just think in this instance, I feel like MiLaysia being easily the most talented has to be acknowledged and should be acknowledged. And again, I just think she's gonna listen, she's bought in. I don't see any signs of her having regrets. Like the girl hasn't lost a game, since in over a year, so.
Yeah.
And I think she enjoys that. Clearly, that's why she went there, to be a winner and not just to be a 25-point per game scorer her first year out.
Yeah.
But you make the point. I know we're going to talk about kind of the front court a little bit for South Carolina a little bit, but it's related to this because I think the way this group is set up now, again, I think she's going to keep doing what she does, no complaints, coming off the bench, less minutes, whatever it is. But when she comes in, she's going to kick up and she's going to bail them out in moments when they're going to need it. And I think this is the year post Camilla, without that unfair advantage inside, where they're going to have games where they will need her to go off. Like they will need some 30 balls from MiLaysia this year. I think their defense is still really good. I mean, they're still a Dawn Staley coach team. So it's not like, they're going to be in shootouts with people, but I just think in those big moments we are going to find out in those moments all the way through the tournament. I'm looking, I think we're going to really see moments where it's like, okay, like they've got to let MiLaysia take over and it might just happen naturally, or they may need to let it happen. Like I said, in order for them to, especially if they're talking about repeating, like, listen, Raven wasn't hitting shots last year. Raven's not a shooter, bro. Like that's not happening. She'll hit shots here and there, but you're looking at a Draymond Green complex. Like she's not going to be hitting shots. Tessa hit shots. Pow hit shots. Yeah. MiLaysia they hit shots. Raven is the everything else. She'll set the table. She's going to play great defense. When she's open, she'll shoot it from time to time and she'll make it from time to time. That's just what I'm expecting from her. And I think that's fine for her. Like, I don't think they need her to be hitting more shots unless they're not doing what they need to do to make sure that their best guard is in control to score the ball and be loose. Cause that's going to make life easier for Raven and make her not have to hit as many shots where they don't have to rely on that.
That's a good point. And I want to put a pin in the size thing because I know we're going to get to that in just a second. But I wanted to ask you this question. We talk about the Aces a lot and how their guard trio of Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum, and Chelsea Gray, any combination of them at any given point in time is usually the best guard pair on the floor. All three of them together obviously gives most opposing guards issues. Would you, based on like how you feel about MiLaysia Fulwiley, would you say that there's not a guard duo that you could name on this South Carolina roster that's with like, is there a guard duo on this team that you could identify that's better than any guard duo that includes MiLaysia? If that makes sense. Like, would you take a Tahina Pow Raven Johnson, for example, guard duo over a Tahina Pow MiLaysia Fulwiley or a Raven Johnson MiLaysia Fulwiley duo? Like, is the talent of MiLaysia that overwhelming where like she has to be one half of the best guard duo on this team for the team to be successful?
I think so, but like I'd be good with Pow and Tessa because they're both shot makers. Like you're still there's always going to be an element missing because none of them can do what MiLaysia can do, in my opinion. But
sure,
I mean Pow and Tessa, that would be a strong. And look, I mean Raven and Tessa is good. Raven and Pow is good. I wouldn't go that far, but I would just say that if it doesn't have MiLaysia, you're missing a component, that dynamic component that's going to differentiate you from other backcourts.